Coming up on A Girl and a Gun, more news that will possibly fit in one program. Yianni joins us to talk about community TV and where it's going. Karel gives us some tips about developing content. All this on A Girl and a Gun, up next.
A Girl and a Gun, Episode 8, recorded 23rd of May 2013, Throwing in the Towel.
All you need to make a movie is a girl and a gun. Come along and join the party while we stare at the sun.
Hello, welcome to this episode of A Girl and a Gun, the show for filmmakers and content creators. I'm Phil Moore, and as always, I'm joined by John Maisels. Hello,
Hello,
John.
Phil. Hello, everybody.
And you might have noticed we have some changes to our set, a new addition.
We've done some wonderful things. Just look at this stuff behind us. It's artistic.
We've got, you can move the cameras if you want, just grab some close-ups on this, because we're not going to feature these otherwise.
No.
But we have this one back behind you, John.
Yeah.
Hang
on, that way.
This is the first photograph ever taken of a human being.
And you can see the human being.
Your
right
head's in the way
there,
at the moment.
Just, oh, okay.
That's
just
it, yeah.
Right down there. Yeah.
Getting his shoe shined. Two people, actually.
Yeah, when I say in the foreground, of course, it's a very distant foreground.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, so he was having his shoe shine, and there's a thing next to him that looks like a Segway, which is really weird because they weren't invented there.
No, it's a boy on a shoe shine
No, off to the side of that.
Off to the side there?
Yeah.
Oh, they had Segways back then.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we have others. You can see this one up here, which is a poster from Metropolis, the film.
Fritz Lang.
Fritz Lang. And behind me, there's an image of Ned Kelly.
And that's just really, so typical of this program, to juxtapose the first picture ever and Fritz Lang and Ned Kelly.
Ned Kelly, one of the first feature films ever made.
Right.
So, and we have others of these which we'll put out there, in future shows. So,
and in the future, we're going to do really cute things with the set. Just watch carefully because you'll notice all these really cute details. Like Phil's had his toenails cut for this show.
Yes, watch carefully and you'll find that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And also, Veronica keeps changing her clothes.
She does. She's got a beard this week.
I don't know, but she's feeling very, very French and style. Also, today is, this week I should say, is Geek Pride Week.
Geek Pride Week.
On May the 25th.
Yep.
Geek Pride. It is also Towel Day, which is why I have my towel here.
Towel Day. Okay, so here we go. We've all got our towels now.
Yeah, you've got it. So you understand why we have our towels?
I do now. Yeah. I didn't before. I do now.
Which is in honour of Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
A very, very hitchhiker moment. Yes. Have your towel. Have your towel.
It is also, could you bring up that the website again? It is also the commemoration of the release of the first Star Wars film in 1977, May 25th. Yeah. And is also, for those who read Terry Pratchett's Discworld, glorious 25th of May. So this week, the 25th of May, it honours all of these occasions at once.
Very, very special day, the 25th of May. I had no idea at all.
So this is why we have our towels for this episode.
Okay.
That's enough. We're going to get on to the breaking news of the week now. There we go. Breaking news. We've got quite a few stories to rattle through today, so I'm going to zip through some of these. Coming from Studio Daily, there is a story here on shooting colour and post with the Sony Cine Alta, F5, F55 and F56 cameras. There is it's actually an online web series, web seminar. So if you're a cinematographer type and you're using those cameras, this is at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or Eastern Daylight Time US, Eastern Daylight Time, on May the 25th. So you may have missed it if you're watching this episode a bit later, but on May 25th, May 29th, I've got May 25th in my head for some reason.
You do, yeah.
May 29th, which is next Wednesday, I think, as we record this. 1 p.m. US Eastern Standard Daylight Time. There's a special thing on those cameras with the Sony Cine Alta range for those who are into that. Have a look on the Sony website. I'm looking at this on the studiodaily.com site, so if you can't find it, just have a search on there.
So bad luck if you missed it.
Bad luck if you missed it, unfortunately.
Okay,
yes.
we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about software modifications to DSLRs and people who've gone and hacked into the software to do interesting things. Here's a really great piece about a hack on the Canon 5D Mark III, where what they've done is, among other things, taken out one of the low-pass filters. How many low-pass filters
We talked about
do you
this
have?
last week, didn't we?
Yeah. And also taken out the IR. And as you read through this, interesting comment, which is the pictures now look really sharp. Well, of course, if you take out one of the low pass filters, which is going to be taking out high frequencies, which is detail. Detail is all in the high frequencies. Of course, that might happen. Very interesting. They're saying, yeah, great pictures.
So it's not just about the fact that there's no compression. There's other stuff there that makes it such a much better picture coming out of the camera. Yeah. Okay, so the thing we talked about last week, it actually is working. It's doing a really good job, apparently. Remember we talked about the movie Gimbal, that 3 gimbal handheld Steadicam type thing.
The one in front of
for $15,000.
Yeah.
Ridiculous price.
Very expensive.
And I thought, well, this should, there are competitors coming out already. I'm looking here at studiodaily.com again, where there's a lower price point version of this from the movie was from Freefly. This one, this alternative one is about $1,800, and you get a 2 gimbal version of that. And they're working on a 3 gimbal one, so all angles, all rotations, which I'm assuming will be in the ballpark of $3,000, which is what I think it should be for this kind of device. There's a quick video here if you wanted to show it. $1,800 for a 3-axis model, they say, with the ability to hold a wider variety of cameras, will presumably carry a bigger price tag, but not too much more. Have a look at the video here. Just run that a little bit of that.
We are creating different sizes, but the whole thing is very scalable. If you have a 5D Mark III, you're going to love it. If you carry the red, you're going to love it. If you carry the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, you're going to love it. And that's why we created this gimbal, is because we use a lot of different cameras and a lot of different situations, and we had to build something that works. If you're like us, you're in a lot of different crazy environments. So when we created a product, we had to make sure that it worked exactly the way we need it in any condition, in any environment. If you saw the video from NAB, it was a lot of fun. We got to put our gimbal out there, put a handle on it, and walk around the show and meet some amazing people. But that was a prototype that really just started this whole thing. We went back to the drawing board and built a product that was robust and scalable for multiple different cameras.
Okay, so that's the Defy gimbal. Which is doing the same kind of thing as the movie was, but at a much cheaper price point. And a lot of rental houses will probably go with that rather than the other one, I expect.
It's a very price-sensitive market. I'm sure they will. Yeah. Okay, we get to discuss a lot of technical stuff on this show, and indeed we talk about it offline when we're not actually on camera. Technical stuff not well understood these days, unfortunately. Well, look, a really great tutorial and tip piece that's been done by Ryan Walters on the topic of neutral density filters, ND filters. The whole point of an ND filter is to go in the optical path to reduce the amount of light coming through the lens so that you're pushing the sensor back into essentially its sweet spot. What Ryan Walters did was investigate a number of ND filters to find out how neutral density they are. And there's a great shot of a vector scope right on the front, right at the head of this article.
Just bring that up again, guys.
So if you have an ND filter and you drop it in, you would expect to see the levels change, but you wouldn't expect to see a colorimetry shift. And what he discovered is that neutral isn't always as neutral as you'd like. That's worth checking out. So
that's from Ryan E. Walters, cinematographer. You can find that on his blog at ryanewalters.com. Related to that, cinematography news again, if you look at Hurl blog, this is Hurlbutt Visuals.
Hurlbutt Visuals.
And the actual site's called Hurlblog, Hurlbutt Visuals. He gives you a really nice overview here on the question of how to light daytime exteriors. Again, one for the camera people out there, the cinematographers. Tools for finding the best time to shoot. I'm not going to go into the details of this. If you're a cinematographer and you're interested in, again, if you have a look at go scroll down there, there's some really technical things there for those who are into this kind of stuff. This goes beyond my knowledge on cinematography, to be honest. I'm not a hardcore cinematographer, but it looks like he really gets into the nitty-gritty of that kind of stuff. So if you're looking at lighting daytime exteriors...
You know what, even if you're not a cinematographer, or you're a budding cinematographer, this is actually really important stuff. Too many people, like shooting with the eye thingy, believe that you can just pick up the camera, point it at a daylight scene, you're outdoors, of course it'll look wonderful. Of course it doesn't look wonderful, and it's the same as shooting at night. Of course it doesn't look wonderful unless you do things to it. As opposed to the trend these days to try and shoot indoors with natural light, but carefully arranged so that it balances out. Useful lot of tips in this article.
Yeah, so some good blogs there for cinematographers. Yes, we have more news on 20,000 Leagues as well, don't we?
We do. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was going to be shot here in Australia, and now it's not. This is largely due to Brad Pitt discovering that his $400 million World War Z was sort of in the crapper. Unfortunately, what this means is that about $20 million worth of funding that was going to be coming into the Australian industry probably isn't now. I'm just waiting to see another 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I watched Sea Hunt when I was a kid, which of course is the television rip-off of the Jules Verne story.
Well, I know a lot of people in the industry here. I know some people who were really hoping this was going to happen. They were prepared to move to Queensland if it ended up getting shot there, just because there's no work.
Yeah.
You know, for set builders and people.
It's good in Queensland. Yeah. They've got lots of water. They could do this.
Because they were tossing on whether to do it in Queensland or Fox, but it's not going to happen at all now by the look of it.
Sad.
All right, so be it. Let's see what the next big runaway production here is going to be. Well, the last big runaway production we actually had here.
Speaking of which,
was Great Gatsby, Baz Luhrmann's film, and we reported last week how, despite some early bad reviews, it was doing really well in the box office in America, and it's being released in Australia as we speak today, this Thursday, the 23rd. But in America, it's already getting panned. There's some really bad reviews for it out there.
So here's the question. Does it matter if it's getting panned if it's bringing in the bucks? And this has already pushed the Star Trek movie off. It's pushed, what's the other one? There's number 3.
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, it's pushed that off. You know, the fact is, this is, as much as it might be about art, this is also about money. And if it's brought in 150 mil to date across all screens, that's a reasonable return in a couple of weeks.
So box office has been really, actually surprisingly good for the film.
And if the box office is good, who cares what the critics think?
Well, I'll just briefly, one critic here, Charles Moore, gives a very measured criticism, because he knows the book obviously, and he's saying it's a good adaptation of the book. That doesn't make it a good film though. There's things about the book that just can't work. The other one though here from Rex Reed, the other review here, really lashes into it. He's really, as it says here, takes a meat cleaver to have Scott Fitzgerald's literary masterpiece. He hates the film, hates just about everything about it. He really savages it.
Okay, so he hates it. It's still being very successful. The good thing about it being successful, whether it's a good movie or not, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to comment on that, but whether it's a good movie or not, the fact that it's a successful movie means there will be more of them.
Yes, it certainly means that Baz Luhrmann's career isn't over unless he chooses for it to be. And I actually did hear rumours just today that he's thinking of retiring. I don't know. But you know, if
Baz,
the
we love you. Just keep giving everybody lots of work.
The fact is he's made a big successful film. The studios are happy. They're making their money. They'll probably do a Gatsby 2.
Yeah. Gatsby 2?
Gatsby 2. Oh. They'll make a sequel. Was this your story or mine? I've forgotten now.
What, the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't care. The bit about the budget.
No, this was about... did we do the budget?
No, we haven't done the bit about the budget.
Do the budget. Tell me about the budget.
It's live television, folks.
Okay.
Okay, so the big news last week, of course, was the federal budget coming down. We all expected that it was going to be $4 billion liberated to resuscitate the Australian screen industry. Of course, nothing like that, although the government is going to save $4 million by not putting in a completely obscenely stupid content filter on the interwebby thing.
The thing about this that interested me, and I haven't got the page up here, so give me a second because I'm going to have to load this page.
Do you want me to vamp until you're ready?
You can vamp until I'm ready.
Okay, because I know absolutely nothing more about this story until Phil comes online.
Well, this was written by a colleague of mine he was actually the editor of PC User magazine for a while, John Hilbert. So I know John quite well. Hello, John, if you're watching.
Hi, John.
The key part of this budget, if we scroll down the page, it talks about how much money Screen Australia and ABC and the NBN are getting. So the NBN, there's 12.9 million to connect more local... So there's more money going to the NBN to spread that out. That's good, that's
fine. There should be more money going to the NBN.
Online and digital, though, is ABC, 30 million over 3 years, including 1.5 in capital funding, to maintain and expand the ABC's online services. So they're getting 10 million a year to expand their website.
Well, so there should be.
Is that enough?
Oh, well, like, who cares?
It'll sustain.
There should be more.
It'll sustain the website, but it means they can't. There's not much money there for creating new content specifically for the web, though, I would think.
Yeah, but what it does mean is that the ABC is going to be able to lead the transition from free-to-air to online.
Yes, which is what they have to do. Yeah.
And you know, these days, like we'll talk about free-to-air. I mean, basically that means delivered by transmitter. Content is content. So if you get it by a transmitter and that's convenient, that's good. If you get it via the web because that's more convenient, even better.
Well, IPTV or internet is the way it's going. 20 million over 3 years to Screen Australia to establish and administer an Australian interactive games fund. So they're going to put 20 million over 3 years towards games to help finance games makers. I'm glad there's some more money going into that. Again, is it enough? But at least it's something.
Get the industry going.
Yeah, and there's other stuff there, but they're the two main ones I wanted to highlight there.
Yeah.
That's the only mention of funding towards the arts in the budget, basically.
Well, I think I need to point out to everybody, no money in the budget was actually given to this show. We're
Yes,
very disappointed.
we missed out.
And we're going to vote against everybody at the next election. Phil, the Astor in Melbourne.
Yes.
Big ruckus there.
Well,
with the
there
conflict.
was a big ruckus, and they were going to pull it down, and in came a guardian angel by the name of Ralph Taranto, 82-year-old Ralph Taranto, bought the place and kept it alive. He kept it going, so they didn't pull it down. Now there's a new ruckus between him and... So he's the new owner of the place, and the guy who runs the place, the long-established the operator, they're having a big argument about renovations and who's going to pay the insurance for this.
Yeah, the Astor is one of those great old theatres. It's sort of down the bottom end of Chapel Street in Melbourne. It sits on its own. It is the sort of theatre that used to exist in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
And they're all disappearing, aren't they?
Exactly. And, you know, this is another money question. It's like you can keep a building like this going, and it's a wonderful thing to have on the heritage list, but if it's not making money, if it's not paying its own way, what do you do?
Well, the thing is, there's a film festival running there now. Spa, part of the Spa Fringe is having events there, so that it's open for business. But it's saying Mr. Taranto and the cinema's long-term operator, George Florence, they're just not talking anymore. So who knows, if he decides to pull out as the owner, he will sell it off and say, fine, just build some
It'll be
units
very
there.
sad. It'll be another watch this space discussion, I
I
think.
know in Sydney we've lost the Valhalla, we're losing cinemas all over the place.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's not much you can do about them if it's not paying its way.
It's still got to be a business, it's still got to work in some form as a cinema, yes. Studio Daily again, I've got a piece here on Red Giant. They've made, Red Giant are well known for making plugins for colour grading and things like that. They've got a new series of tools called Bulletproof. And this is like a digital intermediate selection where you can getting your footage from the camera into the post workflow. So this Bulletproof plugins or app is meant to help make that workflow a lot better. And there's a new public beta of this available, so you can download it for free right now. And this in particular targets DSLRs, like the Canon EOS cameras and the GoPros, little GoPros, and even the Arri Alexa is coming up. So those of you who are into cameras, post-workflow, that kind of stuff, Red Giant's Bulletproof. Download the public beta now. Have a look on the Red Giant website. Again, I'm looking at this from a story from Studio Daily. Thank you very much, guys, at Studio Daily. A lot of our stuff comes from them. The Bulletproof cameras, if you scroll down there, there we are. So they're the different types of codecs and cameras that it supports there. Anyway, just letting you know that that's out there. John, what's this next piece from Vashi Visuals about directors?
That's back on me. Sorry,
right.
I was just enjoying
taking care of your towel, are you?
Yeah, I was enjoying the towel. Great piece on Vashi Visuals site. This is just one of those things you've got to look and wonder at, which is an analysis of average shot length for a number of directors. This is quite a surprise. So if you look at the guy who was the shortest shot, and I'm not even sure I want to be quoted saying that.
Well, it's on the site.
Michael Bay, whose shot length is like 3.0 seconds.
On average, every
yeah, Michael boom, 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 Bay.
A lot of fast cutting
Absolutely.
with Michael Bay films.
Interestingly, at the other end of the scale, Woody Allen, whose average shot length comes out as 17.5 seconds. But what was a big surprise for me was Hitchcock in the middle. Now, I thought Hitchcock was known for these amazing long shots. The sort of shot that there was this big homage to in The Player.
Yes.
When they came in, that fabulous opening shot that emulated the fabulous shots that Hitchcock did, and yet on average 9.1 seconds.
Part of this is because they haven't included rope, which famously it looks like one big long single shot. It's actually about 5 or 6 cuts.
Yeah.
20 minutes per shot. But that's an exception. That's an experiment. If you take that, on average 9.1. The one I wanted to see here was Alfonso Cuarón. He's famous for doing big long shots. I reckon his average would be a couple of minutes.
And then, of course, there is the movie with the longest shot of all time, which is the one
Russian
done in
Ark?
Russian Ark, which is like no cuts in the entire movie.
Yes, 90-minute shot, the whole
90
thing.
minutes, single shot. Wouldn't you hate to get to the end of that and somebody goes, just a minute, we made a mistake?
And there's a story behind that, but we'll have to move along from
different
that.
day.
Different day. This is a really cool one. You've seen The Matrix.
All 3 of them.
Yeah, and there's an effect in that which is, they call it the Matrix bullet time, although it was an effect used before these films. But the fact where, everything, they jump in the air and everything freezes and the camera's dollying around them and there's that freeze motion. A fellow here has tried to recreate that effect using nothing but a ceiling fan and a GoPro camera. And it's actually pretty good. We have a video of this. Just run a bit of that video there, guys. Just scroll down a bit. Just run some of that video.
So I've always loved that bullet time effect for The Matrix, but the problem is to pull it off like they did literally costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is my attempt with a single GoPro camera and a $30 ceiling fan. So here's the rig. Down below you actually have just the motor for the ceiling fan, which is attached to this wooden platform right here. And then you can see the GoPro mounts right here, and we have 2 flashlights that point toward the object in the middle. That way there's no shadows on this background here. And this is sort of the key, because relative to the camera's frame of reference.
You can watch this whole thing and see it. It's just an example
Keep it playing.
Of how...
Look at that.
Yeah. It's just an example of how, with a little bit of ingenuity and not a lot of money...
Look at the shots you're getting out of that.
Yeah,
Look at that. Awesome.
Exactly. Whoa!
So as long as the background stays consistent, it doesn't look like it's moving.
Yeah.
That's amazing. With the GoPro and a bit of cardboard.
And the guy's hands are going to twist off there.
Yeah. So it's still actually a moving shot. It's not total freeze frame, but he slow-mos it down, and you get this. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. We're going to be doing shots like that next week on the show.
Yes.
Yes. Phil and I spinning on the set.
Yes. This whole set is on a gimbal.
Completely bilious.
And we're going to do the walk on the ceiling shot later on.
Can we do that?
Yeah. The whole gimbal's going to turn around. We'll do all that. Open orchestra recording session. This happens every year.
Yeah, there's a great piece on dynamedian.com.
Yeah.
Now, of course, being a news site, this will float down if you don't get and look at it quickly. But it's just a story. And this is just a wonderful opportunity that the Brandenburg. So Brandenburg is one of the what do you call it? It's one of the states in Germany. One of the areas in Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Brandenburg State Orchestra, which is funded by the state. Every year does some number of recordings for lucky people who get like a minute of something they've got recorded by the orchestra, and then they get the recording back afterwards. It's great if you've done a game, you've written a little bit of music like this piece from Vesuvio, and it's done by the full orchestra.
Well, you'll be surprised. A lot of movies and games, like I happen to know the Halo games, for example. The guy's done the score for those. He's written it all in MIDI on the computer. He's sent that to these guys. They've notated the whole thing for all the orchestra players.
So they've orchestrated it.
They've orchestrated it, done the charts, had their recording session, and he's asked for, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes total. So it's a few $1,000s, whatever it is for that. But full orchestra, full recording session, and you've got a full orchestral thing. It's a lot cheaper than hiring the new Philharmonic yourself.
Now, we'll just be very clear that the piece you just saw on the screen there was a little bit further down. It's one of the stories below this at dynamedian.com. Which was actually the London Symphony Orchestra being recorded at Abbey Road. But there's a studio for you. Just look at those wonderful bass traps, look at the wonderful acoustic treatment, and can we just scroll back up and just enjoy the look of that beautiful, long-form audio desk, or you can just stay on me. And I'm less boring than a mixer.
John wants to look at the gear, the tech gear.
I did.
The desk there.
Mixer's that big, I could, sigh.
and I know that they get this orchestra in a big room. They've done it in a church hall or a town hall before. They're moving up by the look of it.
The Brandenburg.
Yeah.
The orchestra in Brandenburg, yeah.
Yeah, if you need orchestral score done for your movie and you want to do it without having to spend too much money by comparison of doing it all yourself, there's a service. That's a service for you.
So now it's time for us to look at this week's stories about intellectual property.
Yeah,
Phil.
it's becoming a regular topic, this, isn't it? Look, Dark Knight Rises, the last Batman film, ironically, they got sued by Fortress Gran because in the movie, Catwoman is trying to get this thing called the Clean Slate software. And this was invented for the story in Batman, but there actually is a program called Clean Slate that does something very similar to what it did in the movie, which is wipe your identity off the internet, basically, and give you a clean slate.
Was the Clean Slate in the movie before the Clean Slate in the real? Or,
I don't know which came first, but the fact is, in the movie, it's still meant to be a fictional piece of software. It wasn't the actual Clean Slate software that's being sold since 2000. So, yeah, the software came before the movie in this case. But the news here is that Warner Brothers, who made the film, they won the case. So you cannot sue a film over using your intellectual property if it's actually a fictional piece of intellectual property that's in the film, that's similar to yours. And I think this is important.
I don't even know where you'd go with that.
Right? What if you could sue a movie because it's difficult. I'm wearing Mickey Mouse today. We're going to get sued by Disney just because I'm wearing a T-shirt.
Can you just cover that up again, please? A, because I think your stomach looks like your stomach.
I agree.
And B, because we don't want to be thrown off YouTube for appearance of some copyright.
But if you have intellectual property in your film, and you can get sued over that, and you know this happens. It happens in movies, happens in YouTube. But what if you make up something, and then someone out there says, "I actually did make that. You've used my name. You've used my idea." But
well,
I
that's
thought,
what happens. You go through the courts, and somebody challenges somebody.
But it's still a fictional variation on something that is real. It's not an actual Apple computer. Okay, it's a pair computer. That's what these TV shows do, for example.
So what we're going to do for next week's show is we're going to, or you could give us your best idea. Just send it to the what you see now on your screen, which in the case of nothing means don't send it to anybody at all.
There you go. Thank you,
You
Veronica.
can send it to Veronica at agirlandagun.tv. Send that to us if you've got a great idea for something that you'd like to see appear in a movie, and we'll get it into Phil's next movie so you can sue him. It's worth a lot of money.
Well, what I'm thinking, what if I wrote a script, put something in it, someone heard about this before the film came out, quickly made an app that did that, and then sued me after the fact?
This is starting to get very surreal, Phil.
It is. But I'm glad Warner Brothers won that case because it means it's less likely that people will get sued over stuff that is not actually an IP breach.
Sure.
Anyway.
Okay, the iTunes in the news for having a complete breakdown of their digital rights management, and they've managed to come up with a hole that allows people to download pretty much anything, and indeed the Daft Punk album that was downloaded at full resolution, well, 256K bits, which is probably full enough. Yeah, I mean,
but we talked about this last week.
We talked about a number of things like this, but discovering that Apple had their DRM breakdown, the whole point behind Apple's ability to engage with the market, and the thing that actually drove the iPod forward and protects all of the iThingies, is the fact that they got digital rights management right, and then they didn't.
Yeah, because Daft Punk last week we said they put the album up as streaming for free as a sampler. Yeah. You couldn't download it, but you could listen to it. Well, now you can download it, apparently.
You can download it.
And not just them, but anyone who's done this, streaming on iTunes.
And the real question is still going to be, does that make any difference, or are there other ways to make money? And what used to happen, the old world mechanism, is that you wrote something, you performed it, you got the performance rights, then if somebody else covered it, you got rights for them performing it, publishing royalties, all of that. So that's how you made your big amount of money. You know, this is why Michael Jackson...
We've got another story on that in a minute.
Well, that's why Michael Jackson bought the rights to all the Beatles stuff. These days, you can go on and produce something that's sort of suitably viral, not make a wazoo out of the actual performance or the authoring rights, and make $1 squillion out of aftermarket stuff because the ads appear on
Well,
YouTube.
that's how bands have to work these days,
Yeah.
you know, and there's many examples, but you don't make money off CD sales anymore, or even iTunes sales. It comes off touring and merch for the most part.
Despite which, we still pay through the nose for
Yes.
optical media.
But on this, actually, a good example here is Gautier, which is our next story, in
Yeah.
fact. Gautier, whose top-selling single, Somebody That I Used to Know, before that became a massive hit, he actually used a sample from a deceased South American musician called Luis Bonfa. He's been dead for 10 years. But he used a sample from a piece that this guy had done, and he made a royalty split with the
estate?
with the estate, 55-45, so almost 50-50 with the estate of this. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give them 45% of the royalties from this song that'll probably never make any
And
money.
I'm going to give them 45% of not very much at all.
Yeah,
So who cares?
and it becomes a worldwide
Worldwide,
massive
yeah.
#1 hit. He wins Grammy Awards all over the place.
Yeah.
He's already lost in basic royalties $1 million to the estate of this fellow. Just on,
Which means he's got something more than $1 million.
well, he himself has got more
Exactly.
than $1 million, and then you count other stuff, you know, from the video and other area. But basically,
Much as I feel for you in this case, can I say I would love to have that problem?
I'm sure he's doing okay, and he's not complaining about it, but someone has noticed that there is this #1 hit in 24 countries, sales in excess of 13 million, Grammy Award for Best Record of the Year and Best Pop Duo Group Performance at the Grammys recently in America. The film called Upstream Colour. Now this becomes, there's always the issue with exhibitors and cinema chains. If you release a movie in the cinemas, they want 3 months exclusive on the film before you can release it to iTunes, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever it might be. This is an indie film, Upstream Colour. They went to the cinemas, they've got full control of their film. They're not going through a distributor. And they said, no, we'll give you 1 month. And the exhibitor said, no, we want 3. I said, okay, fine, we're not going to go with you. So they've released it independently through the cinemas. It is still in cinemas in England, and it's also available on iTunes now. So this is crashing those windows, those release windows that everyone's trying to hang on to. It's in the cinemas, it's in iTunes. I'm sure they're getting the DVD and Blu-ray release actively happening as well. And this is what a lot of people want. If you can release your film everywhere at the same time, so it's available in whatever format you want, whatever you choose to watch it. You go to cinema, get the DVD, hire it, rent it, get it off Netflix, whatever it's going to be. Another example of trying to get indie content, and if you've got control of your content, you can get it out there the way you want.
Okay, so we've got a whole lot of competitions coming up.
Yes, film festivals and things. Make My Movie, which is a New Zealand competition, is now open for entries. This year they're looking for horror films. So Make My Movie, the horror. If you have a look on the website, I'm not going to go into details here, but the website is makemymovie.co.nz. I think this is open to anyone, but certainly if you're in New Zealand, they want a low budget on offer, 1 low budget, campaign tool, synopsis and poster. Secret requirements, a deep and abiding desire to make a horror movie. So check out the details on makemymovie.co.nz for that one. There's also a local Sydney-based group called NAFA, and I've had a little something to do with these guys. It's kind of like a community support group for filmmakers and musicians and that kind of thing. They have an annual film festival called Showfest, and I've actually had a couple of films in their festival in the past which have won awards. So they've got their festival coming up at nafa.net.au. Just check out, they're open for entries now as well. Okay?
There you go.
And the other one I was referring to before was Iron Sky. Did you ever see Iron Sky, the movie?
Am I going to show my colours? Just like it turns out that actually I never go to the cinema anymore.
It wasn't actually. Was it in the cinema? I can't remember. I saw it on Foxtel anyway. Originally, Iron Sky was partly funded by crowdsourcing on Indiegogo, I think it was. But they still had other investors, and they ended up again compromising their creative vision to for the sake of these investors. Well, they're now planning on making a sequel, and they're going to Indiegogo, and they want to crowdfund the entire budget for this film. Toll us bollocks. So starting out, they're asking for $150,000 to develop a script and do a promo to then get more money to eventually make the whole film. So you can see there, Iron Sky, The Coming Race. There's got 39 days left, and they're a long way from their goal yet. And you can see here, $10, $25, the maximum you can invest if you wanted to, is $25,000.
And what do you get for 25K?
You get a credit in the promo, not the film, of either your company or you personally, and it's a good place to be. Trailer for Iron Sky. Below that, $10,000, no one's asked for that one. You get a speaking role in the promo. For $1,000, and one person has invested this so far, you get an invitation to the script meeting, so you get some input on the story ideas. Anyway, they've got various things there. You can also buy t-shirts and things. So they're trying to crowdfund the entire production of this, like Zach Braff did, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And they can retain control of it then.
So for the amount of money that we invest in this program every week, we get like a period at the end of the last sentence.
Yes.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
No.
Matt,
Oh, it's me, is it?
You.
Oh!
You wanted to do this one. Off
Well,
you go.
I did, yeah, because I'm a television tragic. And by the way, I've been watching House of Cards, and it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, big experience. If you're not listening to this in 5.1 surround sound in a properly set up room, you are missing some of the best audio that I have heard this year on television.
But this isn't House of Cards.
No, it's nothing to do with that. I just thought I'd do this while I had the shot. So I'm the television tragic. Max Headroom, which I remember watching. Oh, how long ago is that? Like 1980 something?
80 something, yeah, back in the 80s.
Max Headroom burst onto the scene. Firstly, very attention grabbing because they had this character that was actually funny in a very weird sort of way. And then because of the nature of the character, which was sort of very CGI-like. And because it turns out that, in fact, it wasn't CGI at all. It was all entirely fake. Well, now Max Headroom is making a resurgence. You can get Max Headroom, the best bits ever.
Well, I remember there was he was featured in Back to the Future, Part 2, as iconic of the 80s. Yeah, there's a piece here on cartoonbrew.com. I know you have got the link there. Which talks about Max Headroom as an example, but it also talks about some other films, Escape from New York, and if you go down the Babelfish in the original Hitchhiker's Guide TV series.
Yes, here we go.
All the way down to the film Tron as one of the prime examples of back when it was too expensive to do real CGI, so they'd fake it. And Max Headroom was a good way of faking this kind of CGI. And it tells you here how they did it back in those days when they had to fake a computer kind of look when they were going for that. It's a really nice piece. But we do have a little bit of, for those who don't know Max Headroom, we have a little bit of him here. So you've got on the other page there, Max Headroom, the best bits ever. Just run a little bit of the video so people know who we're talking about for the younger audience.
Looks so stupid.
Oh, look at that. You cannot beat that for a first prize.
Well, you can't, but I can. Good luck, and see you in London! Ha!
Line code, please.
Yes. That's my job. That's my job.
So someone's put that together, because originally it was a movie, then a TV series, and then it became a whole different kind of series featuring just that. This is the actor Matt Frewer, actually, in makeup, and the background is CGI, but the character is not.
And of course they did a little bit of editing. So
Exactly. That's what gave that digital glitchy look.
And the name Max Headroom, of course, coming from the sign in a parking garage.
Because he smashed
Says
into it.
Max
Do you remember the
Headroom.
film?
I do.
Our final story today, you were going to do this one, John.
I was.
Yes.
So we say goodbye this week to Penny Hackforth-Jones at the age of, I think, 64 from lung cancer. Penny Hackforth-Jones, who appeared in so many productions, and you can work your way back and say, you know, Bellbird, All Saints, Mother and Son, Country Practice.
Number 96, Alvin Purple,
Number
Matlock
96,
Police,
but like,
everything.
Yeah, Alvin Purple, which really shows how long she had stayed in the industry. Did a fabulous job of portraying frightfully upper class people, but will be sadly missed.
And most recently, we didn't do this story in our first episode because it passed, but if you remember the controversy over the Chopfest winner last year, and she was in that film. She was one of the stars of that film, one of the last things she did, I think. So if you want to see her most recent work there, but as you say, lots of stuff. I'm sure there's going to be tributes, films showing her coming up on TV and things, so look out for them. Actually, a great actress. Valet to Penny Hackforth-Jones. That's the news. I had a lot to get through, didn't we?
Wow, so much to get through.
Yes.
It's time for you to go and have a cup of coffee now while we go and have a look at the tutorial for this week.
Well, in fact, what we have a special guest coming up. which I'll talk about in a minute. But yes, our first tutorial, the second in our series on screenwriting with Karel Segers. Hello and welcome to part 2 of our series on screenwriting with Karel Segers. Hello, Karel.
Hi, Phil.
Now, Karel, you teach here at CIFA, but you also have a life beyond this place.
Yeah.
You run workshops around the world and all sorts of things.
I've lectured in the Middle East. I've lectured in Asia. I've just returned from a European trip where I was teaching Swedish screenwriters at a dedicated Swedish screenwriting school. And that was in the area where Ingmar Bergman, one of the greatest European filmmakers who ever lived, he lived on an island called Gotland, and that's where the school is.
And you had to teach in Swedish?
Yeah, I wish. I know a few words in Swedish, but I don't want to say those on camera. But no, not in English. Their English is pretty good.
Well, in this tutorial, we're going to look at finding story ideas. So how does one find a good story idea?
Well, you sometimes have these people come to me and I have this amazing idea. It's this guy who wakes up and he realizes that he is the best screenwriter who ever lived. Exactly. So, and you think anyone is going to be interested in this ever? So yeah, you don't go with that one idea that you wake up with. You know, it's often the case. People have an idea under the shower, and then they try to polish that for the next 17 years. Well, no, you've got way more ideas in you. Everybody does. It's just a way of, you got to find the process to get them out. And, you know, brainstorming is a very well-known buzzword, but how do you do that? I always say, you know, don't be happy with 1 to 5 ideas. I start my classes with 20 minutes and everybody has to come up with 30 ideas. 30 sparks, doesn't matter. They don't have to be good. Because later you can look back at them and combine them and weed them out and elaborate on it. Everybody's got masses of ideas, so don't settle for that one idea.
Now, you're quite right. A lot of people, they got this one brilliant idea and they pound on it for years. And when ideas are cheap, and in fact ideas cannot be copyrighted, as we know.
Correct.
It's not until you put them in some form that they're worth anything. So ideas mean nothing until you start working on them.
It's very true. A lot of people don't know that they cannot be copyrighted and that they are literally not worth anything. So it's not until you've actually written it down into a certain structure, a certain form, that you can protect them.
And even a bad idea can still potentially be a good story once you work it out.
I don't think there are any bad ideas, just how you do it. I mean, even that crappy idea about the screenwriter. I mean, if you do that well, you know, you bring it into a different angle, you know, in space, in the past, with a serial killer behind it, you know, combine things in a way that's never been done before, because nothing
and it becomes a William Holden film. What was it called?
You know your classics.
Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, yeah.
Which is about a screenwriter.
Yeah, Dead in the Pool. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's right. Yeah, there you go. It's proven. It can be done. But then you got to, you know, work on it, and you need to figure out what is the heart of that idea? You know, that idea that you have, because what I just said, realize he's the best screenwriter, that's all internal. That's not visual. So you can forget about that right there. So great movie ideas are about action, about visible action. Even if you talk about characters, you cannot talk about a character until you see how that character behaves and how that behavior changes, right? So I would say good movie ideas have either one of 2 components. Either something big happens, what if, and then ... Or a character tries to achieve something, right? An event or an action. That's how a spark usually starts, how a movie idea usually starts. And then you start playing with it.
Well,
if it doesn't have either, forget about it.
There are some ideas that are better served as a movie and some that are better maybe as a novel or a theatre piece, you would say. Yeah,
very, very true. And Robert McKee said that, and that's one of the things that he's absolutely right about. Some ideas are not visual. They're not supposed to go on the screen. There's some novels that are not supposed to be adapted, and people still try it. And you know, when the novel is big enough, and any great bestseller will get adapted. And ultimately, maybe there is someone who will do it properly. You know, The Great Gatsby, how many times have they tried to do that?
Well, you look at something like Life of Pi, which was one of those books that they thought, you cannot make this into a movie because of the nature of the story. But you've got to find a way to visualize that and make that work.
It's true. And sometimes the reason the book was successful is about something that is inherent to a novel, to a book, which is not visual.
So good visual ideas is what we want for screenwriting. And don't limit yourself to one. Come up with several ideas a day. And how many do you I've usually got several ideas running at once anyway. So
If you are a filmmaker, if you want to be creative, you've got to be creative all the time. If you have this one idea and then you don't do anything for the next month or a year, you're not a filmmaker, you're not a creative. Creatives have a brain that's constantly churning out ideas. They don't have to be good. You know, just write down. And then if you look at it maybe in a month or a year, you look back at those early crappy ideas with a new fresh angle, maybe something is in there still.
And don't get discouraged by an idea that you think is no good. If you work on it for a while, it can be brought into something good. Although, that said, you've got to quickly realise this is not a movie.
There are two rules about brainstorming, right? One is quantity over quality. Get out as much as you can, because I also believe there's a barrier. We're all afraid, and we need to break through that barrier. And the only way to break through that is to just write a lot of crap down on the paper. Get it out, and then you get to the good stuff. So quantity over quality.
That's your first draft. Vomit out the first draft.
And the second one is defer judgment, which means nothing's bad. You know, anything you write down, right now, it is great. Later, we'll look back. Later, we'll use that left side of the brain. Now, we use the right side. Be creative. Let it out.
Okay. Vomit out those good ideas, let them out, and happy writing. Thank you very much, Karel. And that was our second in our series on screenwriting with Karel Segers. What do you think?
I think he's got some great thoughts there. I'm not sure about the ideas are cheap, but I did love the...
Well, that was mine.
But doing a lot of ideas, which is what he said, no, just get it out there, whatever it is, and then start to edit it. Vomit out the ideas. That's the takeaway from the show.
Is that going to be a title for the show? I don't know.
Probably.
We have a special guest with us now, Ashley. I've got to make sure I get your name right. Yianni Zinonos. Is that right?
Zinonos.
Zinonos. Sorry, I knew I'd get it wrong. Yianni Zinonos.
Yes.
Presenter, producer. Is that correct?
Producer and presenter of a long-running TV show that was
national on community television, TVS, and around the country.
Yes, TVS, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth for 7 years. And the repeats are still on air, and controversially, they're also on Foxtel's Aurora channel.
Controversially? Why is that?
Well, because community TV, free-to-air, is not happy, like they don't want their programs also broadcast on Foxtel as well.
Do they own the program?
That's a very good question. They feel that they do, but legally I've looked into it and they don't, because we were not paid to make these programs, so they don't belong to TVS. But TVS, Foxtel kept on approaching me for years wanting my repeats, and so I kept on saying no, and then I kind of like after 7 years I kind of like had enough of TVS, and I've kind of like felt like they had enough of me as well, for many reasons.
How long have you been doing this kind of stuff?
7 years on TVS, and but before then I was actually involved in the very old Redfern local community TV. Did you ever know about that? Are you old enough to know?
Is that the one that was running like in the basement of one of those high rises?
Yes. Yeah. Community TV actually last September was 25 years old.
Can I interrupt you a moment? We haven't given you your towel yet.
Oh,
you must have a towel.
Are we going to have a shower after this?
Day, so
it's towel day.
We'll just snuggle up here, and they've been beautifully laundered by the towel laundering department here.
All right, okay. I thought I'm just wondering, like, is there some sort of extra thing after this or something? I don't know what's
No.
You should be glad that what you've got is a towel and not a pie in the face.
All right, okay, I've got a towel.
Pick one.
Okay, maybe I can take that home. It's quite nice.
Back in the old days, Redfern community television.
Yeah, well, the beginning of community TV in Australia began at the basement of the Redfern Housing Commission towers in 25 years ago, actually 1987. And that was created as a community project. Actually, Clover Moore was involved in that all the way along there. And it was created as a distraction from all of these people jumping off the towers and killing themselves.
And if I remember rightly, it used to broadcast to sort of almost nowhere except into the antennas of the building. So you could watch it if you were in the building, and you really couldn't get it if you were anywhere else.
Well, for years it was just community TV that was made in the basement of the Redfern Housing Commission towers, and it was actually beamed to 3,000 local people. And then...
What kind of shows were they making?
All sorts of crazy stuff. Actually, Joy Ruby.
Joy Ruby.
Yeah, she's got the longest running TV show in the country. She's still going after about 20, 25 years or something. And so all sorts of crazy shows. And so I started off on Joy Ruby's show. And so I was doing a weekly segment, and I did that. I was producing and presenting my own weekly segment for about 3 or 4 years. And so I could get to do anything from political interviews to tarot readings, and then I was doing cooking segments, and then...
So they really weren't worried about what the content was, just as long as you were doing a segment every week and filling up some time.
Well, yeah. Well, no,
What a
come on.
fascinating opportunity.
Yeah,
It
was a great
complete
opportunity.
editorial freedom.
Exactly.
To do whatever.
To a point. I mean, you couldn't be too serious or too political with Joy, but yeah, I mean, it was huge freedom. Yeah, that's right. And so while I was doing that, I was studying film, and I started off before then as an extra, and I was doing acting classes, and I did TV presenters courses, and then what we were broadcasting at Redfern. Was also then beamed out to the old Channel 31. Does anybody know the old Channel 31?
Remember the old Channel 31? It was on Channel 31.
Exactly. And that was this very obscure community, local Sydney metropolitan licence that many people had no idea. They'd switch on the TV and there'd be this odd channel.
Well, the thing with these kind of community TVs is that people who wanted to get into this but didn't know how to start, just want to get involved, you could always rock up and just get there, just make it.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, that's an interesting point because a lot of the people, like, it was a huge opportunity. A lot of people didn't take it seriously. But yeah, a lot of people have started off in community TV.
Rove McManus would be the obvious one.
Yes, but that was Melbourne. Melbourne was a different story.
So what's the difference?
It's still, well, it was in Melbourne. It's somewhere else, Phil.
Exactly. Melbourne is a different cup of tea because community TV, Channel 31 in Melbourne started a lot earlier than Sydney. They had a stronger signal. They had a more developed audience. People in Melbourne take the creative and alternative and community stuff a lot more serious. Sydney's more brash and full of commercialism. So, but mind you, I mean, my show, was highly successful in Melbourne.
Which show is this?
Yianni's City Life.
Right.
Yes. Me, Yianni.
Yianni.
And so...
there we are. There's some of it now.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yes, I'm on screen now. And so that was food, fashion, artist entertainers, community organisation. Oh, that's me when I had more hair, so that was a few years ago. And community organisations, charities, events. So I was kind of like a cross between Oprah and Carrie Ann. Not too black, not too white, not too heavy, not too light, you know.
And this is all shot like single cam and then edited?
Single camera. Whenever we shot in a double camera, it was a disaster.
Why?
Because always the second person that had the person that had the second camera didn't know what they were doing. And so it was very, very grassroots, homemade TV.
But quite literally homemade. They don't have studios you could use or anything
No, it was
like that?
in my kitchen, in my garden, in my living room. And then we'd go out and, shoot at Fashion Week because I've got a fashion background. And it was great because it was really informal, was a lot of fun at the time.
So do you find, is there still we're watching this off YouTube now.
Yeah.
YouTube and the internet generally has sort of taken over that able to get out there and make something and just make it available publicly. It's taken over from community TV, I think, a lot of the time.
It has,
is there still a place for community TV?
Look, there absolutely is. As long as television free to air exists, community TV really has a very big spot in the broadcast consciousness of the population because there are a lot of people that really, they love community TV because it's real, it doesn't have a commercial agenda, there's no political agenda. It's about small grassroots people doing their thing, and people really appreciate it. They really do. And over 7 years, I built up, 7 years, 5 states, I built up a massive audience, and to the point where 2.5 years ago, I was in the Logie nominations.
Ah,
Yes, not in the finals, but
what category?
very good. Best lifestyle program category.
Oh,
I was one of
okay.
23 programs that people could vote for online. Didn't make it to the finals, couldn't even
Yeah.
get an invite to the Logies. I begged Channel 9 for weeks. But anyway, yeah, so...
But they were taking community TV shows as serious contenders.
They had to because of a ruling made by the Office of Fair Trading, because TV Week refused to allow to have community TV involved. They were taken to the Office of Fair Trading by a Melbourne program, and they had to include community TV programs.
On the basis it was free to air.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And so there were 3 programs for every state, and that had to go through a panel, the Logies panel, and my program was one of them. It was amazing to think that, you know, from such humble beginnings, because I started off as an extra. I used to work as an extra for many years, and then I ended up, you know, doing acting classes, and then I did filmmaking course, and I got involved with community TV and ended up with my own show.
Well, as you say, that show is now showing on Foxtel's Aurora channel. Do you have any ambitions to try and, legitimate's the wrong word perhaps, but to actually make a living out of doing this kind of stuff? Because you don't get any money for what you're doing at the moment, do you?
No.
TVS don't pay.
No, they don't. No one pays, and it's really upsetting. And this is one of the really upsetting things at the moment that I've been having to deal with is that that was all very nice and good years ago when it all started off, and we were building up an audience and everything. But once everything went digital, and we became part of the real mainstream audience, and we're on Freeview and we're listed, and everything's kind of like, you know, combined with online and everything, the audience grew dramatically, and so did the advertising. So what's really annoying is that these 5 states that are on Freeview and digital are making all this money selling all this advertising, and we don't get a cent for it. So you know, people like me, we've had to pay for our own production, we have to pay for our own editors, we have to pay for our own cameraman. Okay, then, you know, they say, well, you know, you can use volunteers, but I mean, come on, how can you do a full-on program using volunteers? They're not reliable. So
Ours are. We have great volunteers here.
These guys are all volunteers, but they are students learning the trade.
Well, actually, I've used a lot of people from Randwick TAFE. I've used fantastic people from Randwick TAFE, but you can't produce a whole TV series on volunteers, as you know, because they just don't turn up half the time, or what they do is crap.
This is a class, so they're committed to coming.
Yeah, we've got them locked down.
Otherwise they're not.
You might have noticed hammer and nails as you came through the door, and their feet
You've
are
got
locked.
a great setup here. I'm really impressed. So,
could you say that again?
I'm impressed.
Right.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
wanted to. Thank you.
And so so it's called community TV, but it's community TV from the program provider's perspective. But
so what's the future of community? If this is happening and content providers like yourself, it gets to a point where this just isn't worth my while anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I've had to have a break. Look, I've had the most exciting period of my life, but after 7 years, I had to have a break and reassess everything. And times have changed, technology's changed. I've had this I've been having this big battle raising these issues with the Office of Fair Trading for a while, and then we went to ACMA, the Australian Media Communications Authority. They told me to go to the federal office for the Minister of Communications, Senator Conroy's office. So I've been doing all this liaisoning with them and letting them know my end of the story and what I think.
Do you still want to do community TV ultimately, if there's a better deal, or you want to move on to something else?
Well, I don't look. It's a tough one. It's very hard to move on to mainstream because the truth is, part of the myth about getting on community TV years ago was that we're all going to get picked up by the mainstream. That's what was sold, this idea that, start off on community TV, get on mainstream.
And it's happened once.
Exactly. Yeah, it's only happened once, basically. Right. Well, it happened to Vasily for 5 minutes, but then he got canned by SBS and went back to Channel 31 Melbourne. And it's this mythology, the dream, because dreams propel us into doing all these things that we do, but then the dreams don't turn out. But anyway, so we're sold this myth that we would be picked up, but we don't get picked up because unfortunately, this is a dreadful thing to say, but I think it's true. Community TV is a place that mainstream TV does not want to be seen dipping into for talent. Because if you look at all of these people that are created by commercial TV, once the commercial TV providers channels are finished with them, whether they're on for, you know, one segment or one series or whatever, you know, they disappear. Have you noticed how everyone disappears and you don't see them again? Whereas, you know, if Channel 9 pick me up and they dump me after a season or a series, well, then they know that I'm going to reappear on community TV bigger and stronger. So they don't want that. Once Channel 9 or 7 or 10 are finished with you, they want you out.
Yes,
you know?
but then they'll pay you a large amount of money to not appear.
To not move to
anywhere
a
else.
different channel.
Oh, they don't do that.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
No.
And so, anyway, so that's the situation.
But there's a stigma. If you've done community TV, there's a stigma that the mainstream TV won't take you because you've done that and it's like you're unacceptable now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a stigma. Yeah. And yet, in the public's eyes, I mean, God, I mean, everywhere I go, I mean, everyone, everybody knows who I am.
Is that true also for people behind the camera, people who might have learned the craft of camera?
No. Actually, community TV is fantastic for production people. A lot of people that have worked on my program for the last 7 years, they went on to get really good jobs. Actually, it's a fantastic platform for students and
for development
people.
Of skills.
Absolutely.
Because there's a complete irony there that the people who've been working with you, presumably for not very much money, if anything at all, have now gone on, they've got employment, and you don't.
Well, because, I mean, celebrity is a complex thing, you know, because, I mean, like, celebrity, I mean, sure, I'm a celebrity in the public's eyes, sure.
Are you able to capitalise that in some other way?
No, you can't. Well, I don't know how.
So, like, people aren't asking you to MC their weddings, or like, do people stop you in supermarkets?
All the time.
You should start selling T-shirts or something.
I used to just. I mean, I'm a freelance fashion designer. No, I'm not. No, it's a tough one. It's very hard, and actually, one of the reasons why people from community TV could not attract sponsorship was because how do you get sponsors if no one knows what your ratings are? We're not given our ratings.
Oh, okay.
Sponsors want to know what your ratings are. If you get sponsorship, then you're charged broadcast time.
Well, you had something up on YouTube there. Are you thinking of moving more to YouTube? Because I think, as I said, the web's taking over a lot of this area as an outlet.
Yeah, true. I mean, probably, that is on my mind. But I've still got to have someone to film me in. I've got to have someone to do that stuff. But I think I also reached an ideological stagnation where I just thought, well, look, I kind of like looked back and I thought, look, I've had this great time. I did a lot with food, but then I got sick of food because MasterChef, like, TV is flooded with food shows. It's just absolutely flooded. So I got over the food thing. I moved into lifestyle. Well, lifestyle, it's about promoting all of these other people's interests. So I just find that a lot of television, even if it's portrayed as editorial, is actually promoting other people's commercial interests.
I wonder if there's another alternative, though, for you to go to. I mean, could you run a community television program dealing with community television?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Could you run a podcast for a film school about filmmaking and
there's
educating
a
film
really
school?
interesting idea. I wonder if that would never take off.
I don't know.
No, in fact, after this discussion, I'm pretty sure, having bucketed sort of pretty much everybody, the chances of this program now getting onto either TBS or Aurora or indeed anywhere else is suitably reduced. But
do we care?
No, we don't, because one of the great things about this medium now is you can be true to your art. You can actually get on and say whatever you like, and we don't care if there are no ratings. I lie. We do care if there are
no ratings on YouTube. We can follow those, so we do want to follow that.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, no, there's this fundamental thing because it's like Oscar Wilde said about art. A painting needs people to look at it in order for it to justify its existence in a way. So I mean, it's a catch because I mean, you can do things for the sake of it, but then what use are they if there's no audience? You know, so
There's the
with
pleasure
YouTube-
of doing it, at least.
Phil and I are feeling...
Yes, but the
we're
pleasure
feeling very
runs out.
self-actualized.
Trust me, after 7 years, the pleasure runs out. Believe me. Yeah, it's a tough one. I've had all these ideological, issues about, because a lot of what I ended up doing was promoting other people. I got so over promoting all these other people because I thought I'm promoting events, promoting, this, promoting that, I mean...
So once you've had this bit of a break, do you want to get back into it, but trying to get more mainstream? Do you think you can?
I think it'd be great to be more edgy, like to do things that are really of genuine interest.
Let me
like
ask you
public
this:
interest.
what do you think is the future of community TV or that kind of grassroots filmmaking or production?
Okay. Basically, to be really brash about it, as long as people out there believe the dream that they're going to go out and they're going to make a series and they're going to give it to Channel 31 Melbourne or TVS Sydney or the others. So they go out, they go in there, they make these series, they drop them off to the stations broadcast them, and as long as producers believe the dream that they're going to make a series and they're going to end up on mainstream or they're going to get sponsors, as long as they keep on believing that and keep on dropping off their tapes to get broadcast, nothing will change.
What change needs to happen then?
Well, I've been pushing really seriously for legislation to be changed. I've been dealing with Senator Conroy's office.
To share in the profits, such as they might be.
Well, what needs to happen is that the 5 states are selling advertising. They're calling it sponsorship, but it's bloody advertising. They're making all this money, either a percentage or some sort of budget or a kitty should be shared with the program producers in order to keep on, because it costs money to make TV.
But surely they could do that. I mean, who is getting the money? You're suggesting that somebody is getting rich out of this?
Well, not rich, but the TV stations are getting all the advertising money, and some of it needs to go to the program providers, whether it's based on your ratings or how long you've done it or something, or whether they say, look, we'll give you $500 a program, or something. We need to get some money. Yeah.
Thank you, Yianni. Thank you very much for coming in. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you.
We have to wrap up, but we have to move along. We do want to finish with one final Pick My Brain question. Now, I've got one here just quickly from Ian Hooper Richardson. He's asked me, he's got a lapel mic, lavalier mic, which he's trying to plug into a Canon XF100 camcorder, and he's not getting any sound out of it. Now, he's been told he needs a preamp. Is that the right solution? There's 2 things I think are the issue here. One is it needs phantom power, and the camera can't feed. In fact, in a follow-up, this plugs in via the 3.5mm socket, and you can't get phantom power through that socket.
The first thing I'm going to say is I think he needs to get another advisor. Possibly he needs to get another camera and maybe even another microphone, because you could fix all this if you had professional stuff. But if it's coming in a 3.5mm, I don't know, without looking at that particular camera, so it shows you how much research we do on this program, that you can't say there isn't phantom power available, like PCs provide.
Well, it does have
power.
XLR inputs apparently. So
well, then you could use one of those and come up with.
But this particular microphone doesn't. Yes.
It may not be a preamp. It's unlikely to be a preamp. It might be that it needs a power supply. It might just be that the supply is turned off. You need to go through the software setting and look for the thing that goes volts.
You know what, I'd agree. I'd say get a better microphone that uses the XLRs, or, well, you still need a better microphone, but use a separate recorder like a Zoom H4n or something, and which gives you the preamp and all of that.
I think the answer to this one is it depends.
It depends. Another one where the answer is it depends.
It's a very technical answer.
I'm sure that was very helpful, Ian. I hope so. We'll have to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining us, Yianni, today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for allowing me to have my say.
As always, thank you, John. Great
Thank you,
show.
Phil.
Thank you for watching, everyone. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Bye, guys. That's a wrap.
All you need to make a movie is a gun and a gun. Come along and join the party while we stare at the sun.
Hang on a second. This is bullshit.
Why didn't somebody fix this?
Because I'm the one that put it on.
Oh, you're crap.
Yeah.
What? You've got a knot in it, you dick.
Maybe there's something wrong with that cable.
No. Gotcha. Ooh. Yeah, I love you too.